Yeah, hi. I've been asked to say a few words about some of the orders that are being made by the government on foot of the COVID-19 law that was passed on the 20th of March this year, 2020. And I've told people before that the whole process involved in the passing of the COVID-19 law is an illegitimate process in relation to what is used by the DAW, which is, they have their own rules called the DAW's Standing Order Rules. Now, I highlighted previously that the legislation that was drafted by Seamus Wolf, the Attorney General, who's in controversy at the moment, was never properly scrutinized. In other words, what's supposed to happen is, according to Order 173, the legislation is supposed to go with a certificate that it is constitutional from the Attorney General, and this is to be put before the Ceann Comhairle. Now, this didn't happen when they started debating on the 19th of March. They bypassed that stage. I raised this issue, and I raised a number of issues in relation to that, which was an illegitimate process. The whole DAW process of passing this. So, in effect, all the orders that have resulted from this are, in fact, illegal orders. And what are illegal orders? Illegal orders are unjust orders. And I'm just going to quote a famous judge, Judge Benjamin Halevi, who was involved in the Nuremberg tribunal, and from that developed what we have, the International Criminal Court in Rome, and what we now have as a result of that is a number of human rights conventions: the European Convention on Human Rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and also the European Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms. Now, when the legislature of any jurisdiction is passing laws, they have to take into account that the laws should be moral, and there should be what's known as reciprocity between the people that are making the laws and the people that are going to be subjected to the laws. If that doesn't happen, it may result in a situation where we have what's known as, and I have it here, I'll just hold it up to the camera, known as the abuse of rights doctrine. And just to, without reading that out and making this too long, basically what happens is, in the absence of scrutiny, laws get passed which are in breach of the constitutional mandate or in breach of human rights. When that happens, you have a violation of what comes down to what is known as the Nuremberg Code. And what's very particular about the Nuremberg Code is that it deals with the way matters should be conducted if there are medical ethics matters, involving people being asked to use drugs or whatever, in terms of the consent. Informed consent. What we've had in Ireland with these regulations is They passed, first of all, the COVID-19 bill through an illegitimate process. They are now abusing that process to bring in regulations in secondary legislation, and they're violating what's known as the abuse of rights doctrine. Because, in fact, the most important thing is people have the right of dignity. Dignity to choose. What has not happened here is people have not been given their rights to choose whether they want to wear a face mask or they don't want to wear a face mask. This is a total violation of what is known as the informed consent principles, and also what most people have realized and no one has spoken about, but I'm speaking about it today. It's what is known as the right of informed refusal. This is another principle that was developed about 20 years ago in California. On foot of that, I have notified the Minister for Health and the Garden Commissioner to exercise my rights as a conscientious objector to be not forced to wear a face mask. This same principle will apply in regards to vaccinations for children or anyone, because in fact, under our Constitution, we have adopted, first of all, the European Convention of Human Rights. We have also adopted the Treaty of Rome, which governs the International Criminal Court. Now, we have also adopted the European Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms, and the legislation and the regulations that are being made, the latest regulation where the minister purports that he can go into people's houses and drag them out of the houses if somebody squeals on them, which may or may not be the truth, without warrant. This is in violation of all human rights principles and conventions. The minister is himself, in drafting this regulation, submitting to the abuse of rights doctrine, because these principles have been adopted in our Constitution. The Constitution, the amendments, supersede and override whatever the minister has to say in regards to us possessing our rights of consent. Now, the people here in the preamble of the Constitution here have given ourselves this Constitution. We have adopted it and enacted it. This has belonged to us. Those mandates belong to us. The minister is only the state who is in second place. He cannot override our rights under the Constitution as we the people. I encourage everyone to send a letter to the minister voicing your concern and your objection as a conscientious objector that you do not want your children subjected to forced vaccination or being forced to wear face masks against their will. Furthermore, I would like to bring to people's attention that it is what is known when laws are developed, there's a moral value of the rule of law. And what I'm getting at here will be when laws become prohibited. They're known as illegal laws, illegal orders. Illegal laws and illegal orders do not have to be obeyed. And the reason they do not have to be obeyed is because they are unjust. Now, to make a law both just and moral, there's a specific set of requirements which lawmakers must respect. For if they are to govern legally, they must respect this. They must not be restricting. The laws must not be restricting illegal and or extra legal use of power or abuse of power. The laws must be in compliance with international norms among nations for observance and adherence to compliance with standards set down to avoid employing the abuse of rights doctrine when drafting and implementing primary legislation and secondary legislation. The lawmakers must respect the policies, which are the political establishment. The policy relationship between the lawmaker and those expected to follow the policies or the law should be structured within a legal system which constitutes moral values of reciprocity and autonomy. In other words, that there's give and take, that it's not just pushed down on us like a dictatorship. Now, I want to go over what is necessary to have laws be recognized as just laws, and these principles, I'm just going to give briefly, are known as the Lawnfuller principles. The 8 desiderata of law. In other words, the 8 principles that you desire to make law fairly, justly, that it can be observed and enforced without infringing upon the rights of the people who are being subjected to those laws. This is not happening. Our voice is not being heard in the Dáil. Our legislators, our TDs, are not lobbying on our behalf. There was a vote the other day. 126 TDs voted that our houses be entered illegally in violation of the Constitution. Only 12 TDs voted against it. Brave men that stood up. Their names are there. It's on my website. Now, to make laws fair according to the principles, the first thing is the laws must not be unclear. The laws must not be retrospective. The laws must not be ungeneral. The laws must not be contradictory. The laws must not ask the impossible. The laws must not change frequently. They must stay constant. And there must be a convergence. In other words, what the statute declares and how officials enforce the statute should be widely published. This is not happening. People are being dictated to, but they're not being told beforehand. The legislators are not being told. Although when I did raise this issue, I now see the day before yesterday, and it's on the website, where the Concorla stated specifically that the bill that's before the House has been brought before the House under Order 173, that is being scrutinized for constitutionality. Thank you, Mr. Concorla. I had to write to President Higgins, and I had to write to Seamus Wolf, who did not have the courtesy to respond to me to tell them that the COVID-19 bill was brought in without doing this. People, I say to you, lobby against your TDs. Picket their offices. Because we must stop what is going on, because they are undermining all our fundamental rights. There will be no democracy we will end up like a South American or a communist dictatorship. Thank you very much.